Election season is in full swing right now in New Jersey, and the candidates, well, they're out trying to convince you to give them your vote. Knowing their platform, of course, that's very important. But equally as important is knowing the person behind the candidate. Hi, I'm Racquel Williams, and Beasley Media New Jersey is proud to present to you Coffee with the Candidates. We put politics aside, for the most part, peel back the layers, and get to know the person behind the candidate. Oh, and of course, it all happens over a cup of coffee. So pour yourself one and enjoy. Welcome to Coffee with the Candidates, and welcome Governor Phil Murphy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm glad you came. How's the coffee?
Coffee's great, right here, the official mug.
All right. How do you normally take your coffee?
A little bit of milk, one sugar, half a sugar.
Okay. Not too much, not
Not too much, no.
All right. Well, as you know, Governor, we are here not so much to talk politics and about Governor Murphy, but we would like to just know Phil. Is that
That's
okay
great.
with you?
That's more than okay.
All right. So we all know Governor Murphy, but a lot of us don't know Phil, the dad, the son, the father, so we want to learn all about that. I understand you were born in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. Tell me a little bit about your childhood in the old neighborhood.
Actually born in Boston, grew up outside of Boston, youngest of four. Dad did not get out of high school, Mom did. She made sure we went to college. She made sure we cared about politics and civics and responsibility to the community. Very Catholic family. As I say, youngest of four. Not a lot of money. We were, I think the right way to put it, we were working poor. Everybody, my mom and dad worked. We all worked. I worked as under the table as a dishwasher, I think when I was 13 in a coffee shop.
Oh.
So we were working, we just didn't make enough money. But we were a close family. And that's informed a lot of my life since then. And I owe a lot to my folks.
I think a lot of people understand that you are, of course, self-made and you are a multimillionaire. And some people might say, well, how can he relate to the working class people of New Jersey? He's got so much money, there's no way he could even relate to our struggle. But that's not true.
Yeah, I think if they had a video of my life growing up and the house we lived in and the struggles that we had financially, again, we were happy. I don't want to make this sound like that it was soul crushing, but we were rubbing pennies together, no question about it, and that stayed with me. And having the side of the working families, the working men and women, was something that was really drilled into us at a young age. Big Kennedy Democrats, big society Democrats, believing that government, when it works right, can do a whole lot of good for folks. Largely because of our own personal experience. So I appreciate the question, but my upbringing is really what informs me more than anything else in my life.
Awesome. Okay. Now, you could have planted your roots down absolutely anywhere. Why did you choose New Jersey?
Yeah, to raise our four kids here. This is a question I get all the time, and my response is, hey, did you get a choice as to where you were born? Of course, the answer is no. Right. But my wife, Tammy, and I planted our flag deliberately in New Jersey to raise our four kids, and probably among, if not the best decisions of our lives. Thrilled that we did that.
Why New Jersey, though?
The qualities that make us so special. Great quality of life, great spirit, attitude, great diversity, great education, a location second to none, a state that punches above its weight in every respect, a combination of all those reasons. When friends are made in New Jersey, they are loyal, true friends. I've experienced that. My wife, our four kids, even more importantly.
Absolutely. Now, I guess you can say you went from Goldman Sachs to the Gold Dome. So when would you say you had that first inkling to be involved in political life?
I'd go way back to my, kitchen table as a kid growing up. We talked a lot, as I mentioned, about the Kennedys, about Martin Luther King, about labor leaders. We were unusually plugged into the political landscape largely through my dad. So I'd have to go back to that in terms of the general inspiration. But listen, in terms of running for governor, it came much later. I was honored to serve as the U.S. ambassador to Germany under President Obama and Vice President Biden, and that was an extraordinary experience. Gave me a real taste of public service, and then we moved back to New Jersey after having lived in Germany, and realized the state was not living up to its potential, and slowly but surely my wife and I kicked the tires, asked a lot of questions, formed a think tank to study some of the issues, and that's where the specific notion of running for governor came.
Okay, all right. Well, I have to say congratulations to you on being a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
It's something that I can actually relate to, but I would like to ask you to share your story a little bit. What was it like when you got that diagnosis?
Well, it was out of the blue, because my family has had coronary and heart issues historically. Thank God I'm not in that category. I keep myself to make sure I'm not. But cancer has not been something, so I actually went in and had a CAT scan related to something completely unrelated, and lo and behold, a tumor comes up on my kidney. I'm pretty short notice. I get operated on. Turns out it was malignant. Thank God I've had the right number of checkups since then, and I'm as I sit here, I'm knocking on wood, and all is good. But I had surgery on March 4th, 2020, and I'll never forget that day, because as I came out of the surgery recovery back into my bed, I checked my phone, and my first text was, we had our first COVID case in New Jersey. So it was quite a day. I'm fine now. It was a pretty shocking experience at the time.
Right.
Probably got back in the saddle a lot sooner than I should have. But that's life at that point.
Did you have a lot of support from friends and family
huge.
during the time you needed
I had
that?
a lot of support from family, most importantly, friends, great medical help, and in the broad community in New Jersey. And I have to say explicitly on both sides of the aisle, and I'll never forget that. I actually gave a budget speech a couple of days after this news broke, and it was really emotional for me to see everybody standing up and being with me.
Well, I'm glad everything's working out.
Yeah, amen.
So take us back to that day again, March 2020, leaving the hospital bed and delving right into managing what is becoming a pandemic in New Jersey. What was that like?
I mean, I'm not sure any of us, frankly, as a country, as a world, at that point knew what had hit us. We had formed our government task force on COVID on February 2nd. I won't forget that day because it was Super Bowl Sunday. And we had been meeting on it as far back, at least January, if not beforehand. So it was not a complete surprise, but the scale of the impact was overwhelming and immediate.
Right.
And as you know, we got clobbered as much as any American state, particularly like a lot of other states then, and it turns out all states ultimately, particularly among our seniors, long-term care, most vulnerable populations. And it's been a crushing pandemic. Thank God, as we sit here today, we're in a dramatically different, better place. We're not out of the woods yet by a long shot.
Right.
But when you lose over 26,000 brothers and sisters in our New Jersey family, and at that point, I don't think there was any way that anyone knew that was going to be the scale of the loss and the toll we would pay.
Well, you will definitely be remembered as the person that guided us through the pandemic here in New Jersey. What would you say was the most challenging and is the most challenging when it comes to managing a pandemic? We've never even been through anything like this before. I'll
give you a general one that was really early on and one that's with me today. The one early on, and I've said this publicly several times, I was channeling Winston Churchill, or at least his fingernail, in the early period of the war, 1940, 1941, when the Americans were not yet in the war. The Germans had conquered the entire continent, and England was on its heels. And I say that because he was trying to balance, and he did it incredibly well, both telling the whole truth, nothing but the truth, even when that was really painful,
right,
and when folks probably didn't want to hear it. And on the other hand, presenting a real, legitimate path forward of hope.
Right.
And so getting that balance right for those first 3 months, I'd say, was really hard because the news was awful. I mean, there were days that we lost over 200 people a day. And by the same token, there was reason for hope if folks did the right thing.
Right.
As I sit here now, my biggest challenge is getting more people vaccinated. And it's frustrating. Some people are not vaccinated for good, legitimate reasons, and we're doing everything we can to get to them. And those reasons are many. Others are not vaccinated because they're believing stuff that is not true, and they're putting their lives at risk. So that's my big frustration as we sit here today.
Understand. What you've always done during those COVID briefings, you made sure that you remember those who passed. Why did you do that?
Yeah, it hit me early on, and I think it was because we said, and we still do, we make all of our decisions based on the science, the facts, the data, which is true. It's the way it's got to be. At the same time, if it's only about that, and we don't remember that these were incredible, blessed lives lived and lost, and family members left behind, that we would do an enormous disservice to the memories of those who passed. So early on in these press conferences, I forget exactly when, we said, you know what, we're going to start talking about folks every time we speak to this awful pandemic, and we still do. And we still do, and we will do. As long as we're doing these press conferences and updating folks on the pandemic, we're going to salute a handful of folks who we've lost. It's now probably 600 or so folks who have saluted. It's a fraction of the 26 or 7,000 we've lost, but it's important, though, to do it, and we'll continue to do it.
Governor Murphy, you are a man of faith, and that's obvious. How does that guide you in your decision-making process in the office and the decisions that you make day to day?
Yeah, listen, it's been important to me since I was a kid, and I think it's the place where I'd look to for strength, and it's probably the place for anyone who is religious, regardless of their religion. I think they probably look to that religion, their own religion, for strength, and I certainly can tell you that's what I do. It's less, although we've had a lot of conversations with faith leaders about what capacity worship can be at, and do you have to wear face masks,
right.
and great help on testing and vaccination. So there's been a lot of that, but I think it's mostly been about finding sources of strength, particularly. Forget about me, because people say to me all the time when I speak to families who have lost someone, they say, gosh, those must be tough calls. I say, yeah, they're not easy calls, but they're the ones who lost somebody, not me, thank God.
Exactly.
And so I think that's the other point. Forget what it does for me, although it gives me strength. I think it gives these families who have lost someone enormous strength in the context of their beliefs.
Absolutely. Well, Governor, they say beside every successful man is a strong and supportive partner. Do you have that in Tammy Murphy?
Oh, my Lord. The question should be, does she have it in me? I refer to her in baseball terms as a five-tool athlete, meaning hits for power, speed, defense, the whole 9 yards.
Everything. Great.
She's been my wife for almost 27 years. She's First Lady. Mm-hmm. She's both the chair and finance chair of our re-election campaign. She started the New Jersey Pandemic Relief Fund, which has been doing extraordinary amounts of good. She has tackled the awful infant and maternal mortality rates in our state, particularly across racial lines. I can't say enough good things, and she's an incredible mom.
Great.
So that's a five-tool athlete and then some.
Well, now we have to find out that love story between the two of you. How did you meet?
Oh, I'm not sure we have enough time for that, but we met in January of 1987 when she was interviewing for a job. It took me 7 years to ask her out on a date.
Really?
And after I did, we were engaged 18 days later.
Wow.
So it took me a long time to get there, but we made up for lost time.
That's quite the story. So do you consider yourself to be a romantic partner?
I think so.
Would she say that?
I think so. You got to get her on the show and ask her that. Give her a cup of coffee.
Right.
I think so. I would hope. Most importantly, I'd hope she would say so.
Absolutely. Now you were.
I got to wave the flag here. Excuse me.
There you go. So you were one of 4 kids.
Yep.
And you are father of 4 children. What would you say is the most rewarding thing about being a dad?
God love them. To see kids grow up, hit bumps in the road as everybody does, see them recover from that, see them succeed.
Yeah.
Most importantly, see them as good human beings, good friends, good kids, good classmates, good teammates. They have their moments, as does their father, by the way. So it's not ever always a straight line, but they're great kids, and I love them to pieces.
Okay. Are you anything like your father was?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, obviously, I'm deeply engaged in public service and politics, and he was. People tell me I've got a good sense of humor. I know he did. He was, even though he didn't get out of high school, I think he was a lot smarter than I am. But I think so. I learned a lot from both my mom and my dad, and I'd be honored to be seen to be like either of them.
What would you say is the biggest life lesson that you learned, either from your mom or your dad, or just from your experiences in life?
Well, my dad used to say, just remember everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, which I always love, that no matter what your rank or position is, we're all in this game together. He also, this has been particularly powerful during the pandemic, he was always of the opinion that when someone died, that you needed to reach out to their family immediately. And you hear a lot, most people are on the other side of that. Please give them space, give them time. He always said, listen, just reach out, make sure that they hear from you. They'll never forget that. And it will mean a lot to them. And he said the same thing about 6 months later, even more importantly. And so that is something I've always, I think, done, but making these calls during this pandemic, when I'm actually doing that by the many hundreds, I've been thinking about my dad a lot.
Yeah, like that. Any regrets, Governor Murphy, over the past 3.5 years as governor of New Jersey?
Oh my gosh, there've got to be regrets. I mean, we've gotten a lot done. I wish some of it happened sooner. Adult use cannabis, which is a big social justice push on our part. That's the reason I'm there. I wish we could have gotten it done sooner. We're getting it done, which is great. God knows I wish we had all known more about COVID-19 before we did.
Right.
It's why that we found a lot of common ground with the Trump administration, notwithstanding whatever differences we may have had politically. I will forever be grateful. The Biden team have been great, but one thing that really frustrated me with the Trump team is when that book came out, in the taped interviews with Bob Woodward, where they said that the president knew a lot more about this earlier. I wish we had known that, because I'm not sure we'd have done anything differently, but we would have done what we did sooner, and there's no question we would have saved some lives.
Do you think New Jersey is a better state having had you as governor so far?
Less about me, but with our administration, yes. I mean, I can say that based on the facts. We are in a much stronger position as a state today than we were 3.5 years ago. I'm part of that, but I'm part of a broader team that has delivered that. It's our administration, it's our legislative colleagues, it's a lot of advocates. New Jersey's got a kick in its step again. It's getting its books in order. It's standing for the right things. It's embracing its true self, including its diversity. I'm proud of all that. We're not there yet. There's no question we're better off. But there's also no question we still have a ways to travel.
Got it. All right, so now the heavy-hitting questions, Governor Murphy.
Okay.
You might want to take a breath.
Okay, I'm going to lift one more time, raise the flag.
These, I call them speed questions. A couple of people around the office said, okay, ask them a couple of these questions.
Oh, my God.
So I'm going to throw these out at you. They're multiple choice. You just choose.
Okay.
Taylor ham or pork roll?
Taylor pork.
Okay. Springsteen or Bon Jovi?
Both. I know them both. They've both been extraordinary. John's one of my closest friends. Bruce and he have been extraordinary during this pandemic. They've done everything that we've asked them to do.
Jimmy's or Sprinkles?
I grew up Jimmy's, but I think I've converted to Sprinkles.
All right, Sprinkles.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I was a Jimmy guy as a kid, but I think I'm Sprinkles.
All right. Now, when it comes to eating pizza, straight to the face, fold and stuff, or are we doing knife and fork?
No knife and fork, God forbid. Jeez, Lord, help me. I think straight in.
Straight in?
Yeah.
No other way
Just
to do
go
it.
get it. Just go in there.
Giants or Jets?
That one's tricky, man. I was born in Boston, so I'll leave that one to people's imagination.
All right. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for defending the fact that there is a Central Jersey, because we are the voice of Central
Yeah,
Jersey.
listen, I love that. I was asked this question earlier, and I live there, and I believe in it, and I'm honored to be with you, and I'm honored to be with you in Central Jersey.
Governor Murphy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real treat for me.
Thank you.